The development of a child is influenced by a range of intricate factors, from their immediate environment to broader societal systems, including the home environment, family relationships, genetics, social influences, and educational experiences. These elements are crucial in shaping a child's cognitive, emotional growth. By gaining a comprehensive understanding of these factors, parents, educators, and society can provide the necessary support for the healthy development of children.
Hao stands alone in the hollow silence of the empty classroom. Click, click. The rhythmic sound of his pen echoes against the walls. He marks the final checklist, feeling the heavy burden of genetics, home, and society. The file closes with a sharp thud. He locks the cabinet tight, sealing away the secrets of a child's soul.
As the lights flicker out, Ho steps into the hallway, knowing this cycle of influence never truly ends.
At the end of this video, I have included video clips that did not make the cut. Thank you.
You have been watching The Brainwashed Child, the factors that shape our youth, the education dilemma.
Welcome to this explainer on Carmen Houston's fascinating analysis of how biological and environmental factors profoundly shape a child's development. If you've ever wondered what truly makes our kids who they are, well, you're in the exact right place. Let's jump right in. So to hook you right out of the gate, we've got to ask a pretty tough question. Are we intentionally shaping our kids? Or is the screen in their hands, the school system they attend, or even their very DNA doing the heavy lifting for us? It's this incredibly complex web of influences, right? Unpacking it is absolutely crucial for anyone invested in the future of the next generation. Now, Houston uses the term brainwashing, but actually scratch that. We're not talking about malicious coercion or some sci-fi mind control here. She uses it to describe the subtle, everyday influences that quietly mold a child's mind and future. We're talking about invisible, pervasive currents, from the physical layout of their home to their digital habits, that guide their psychological development every single day. Okay, so we're going to look at this through the lens of concentric circles of influence. Today, we'll cover 5 main areas. First, foundations, home and DNA. Second, navigating friends and media. Third, the education dilemma. Fourth, purpose and role models. And finally, cultivating a growth mindset. Let's get to it. Section 1, foundations, home and DNA. Our inner circle naturally begins with exactly what a child is born into, their genetic makeup, and the physical and emotional atmosphere of their home. You can think of DNA as the structural blueprint, but the environment? That's the builder. Epigenetics brilliantly illustrates this. It shows how supportive environments can actually turn certain anxiety or depression genes on or off. It's wild to think about. Even if a child carries a genetic marker making them susceptible to stress, a nurturing, stable home environment can physically alter how those genes express themselves. It's this incredible intersection of biology and environment. And building on that, the home relationship is totally foundational. There's a stark contrast between parenting styles. Authoritative parenting, which combines warmth with clear rules, really fosters secure attachments and helps children navigate the world with confidence. On the flip side, authoritarian parenting, which relies on strict control without much emotional support, can lead to crippling anxiety. Kids in those environments often struggle with self-worth and decision-making later down the road. Moving right along to Section 2, navigating friends and media. Zooming out to the middle circle here, we're looking at the profound double-edged sword kids face the moment they step outside the home and into peer groups and the digital world. Social media is a massive part of this. It essentially weaponizes dopamine loops and the pressure of comparison to hook children, which unfortunately often leads to severe anxiety and cyberbullying. These platforms are literally designed like slot machines, providing unpredictable rewards to keep kids chasing likes. When you combine that addictive loop with a constant barrage of idealized, filtered lifestyles, it just creates a perfect storm. It drives body image issues and a deep sense of social isolation, even when they're technically, connected. But here's why this matters. The ultimate buffer against all those digital risks, it's positive, real-world friendships. These offline bonds build the resilience kids desperately need to survive adversity. Genuine peer support offers a safe space for kids to actually process their emotions. These connections validate their self-worth in a way a digital like simply never could, totally shielding them from the harsh impacts of online exclusion or family stress. Okay, Section 3, the education dilemma. Let's see how this builds into the broader educational sphere, which is a massive influence on cognitive and social growth. You know, schools don't just teach math and reading. They transmit what's called a hidden curriculum of unspoken social norms, rules, and expectations that can sometimes reinforce societal inequalities. Way beyond the textbooks, children are absorbing daily lessons on power dynamics and acceptable behaviors. If left unchecked, this hidden curriculum can subtly signal to certain students that they just don't belong, often based on socioeconomic or cultural backgrounds. Houston also highlights a really fascinating concept called the Pygmalion effect. It basically proves that when educators simply hold high expectations, students actually perform better and develop deeper self-worth. It's a super powerful psychological phenomenon. If a teacher believes a student is highly capable, they unconsciously provide more attention and better feedback. The student internalizes that, turning the teacher's positive expectation into a self-fulfilling prophecy for success. It's like magic, but it's science. Unfortunately, we also have to talk about standardized testing. An over-reliance on these tests severely shrinks the curriculum, prioritizing short-term memorization over deep understanding. When schools are forced to just teach to the test, things like music, arts, and deep analytical problem-solving just get pushed aside. It turns intelligence into a simple measure of memorization, rather than a dynamic tool for understanding the world around us. Section 4, Purpose and Role Models. Returning to the child's internal world, our final circle explores how they built a core toolkit to navigate all these external pressures, and it starts right here with purpose. The crucial point is that goal setting creates a really powerful sequence. By setting a challenging target and pushing through an inevitable hurdle, children build the long-term self-efficacy needed to thrive. It's not just about getting an A or winning a game. It is the physical and psychological practice of seeing a challenge, facing friction, and realizing, hey, I am actually capable of overcoming this. That realization, that's the absolute bedrock of lifelong resilience. And this is exactly where role models come into play. Whether it's parents, teachers, or public figures, role models are essential because they provide a tangible blueprint for values, resilience, and real-world success. Kids are basically sponges. They learn by observation. Seeing someone they admire display integrity and hard work gives them a practical blueprint to follow. It makes these abstract concepts of success feel attainable and real. Finally, Section 5, Cultivating a Growth Mindset. We've reached the very core of the toolkit here, how a child's fundamental mindset determines how they approach life's inevitable setbacks. The contrast in mindsets pretty much reveals everything. A fixed mindset avoids challenges to protect their ego and fears that failure exposes weakness. But a growth mindset, it embraces hurdles and believes effort builds ability. If a kid thinks their intelligence is locked in at birth, every mistake is a devastating blow. But if we teach them that the brain is like a muscle that grows with effort, they become these unstoppable learners who view criticism just as helpful data for improvement. It's also about regulating the mind. Teaching kids to regulate their emotions through mindfulness and positive thinking lowers stress hormones and vastly improves their focus. Simple practices like deep breathing exercises can actually trigger a physical relaxation response, lowering cortisol. This clears the mental fog and allows children to engage with the world thoughtfully rather than just reacting defensively. So I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. Knowing these core factors, are we doing enough to actively build these concentric circles so our kids can confidently navigate their future? A comprehensive approach logically leads to resilient kids who can handle life with self-assurance. We are all participants in shaping the next generation. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it's given you a powerful new lens through which to view the incredible, complex journey of childhood development. We often assume that the ability to negotiate a salary or navigate a romantic disagreement are skills acquired in adulthood through trial and error. But the blueprints for those behaviors are drawn long before we ever enter the professional world. When put into a highly stressful social situation, a fierce argument with a partner or a tense boardroom standoff, logic often takes a back seat. Instead, we default to deep-seated behavioral reflexes, pulling from a catalog of reactions internalized during our earliest years. This model illustrates the dual-axis framework of the childhood home. With a child at the center, development is shaped by two intersecting lines, a vertical axis representing caregivers and a horizontal axis representing siblings. The vertical establishes a safe base. The horizontal provides a training ground. The childhood home functions as an active laboratory. Every interaction within its walls systematically engineers the capacity for future human connection. On the vertical axis, infants look to their primary caregivers to define their emotional landscape. They absorb subtle cues through constant observation, using their parents as the primary mirrors for their own developing minds. This is the biological reality of John Bowlby's attachment theory. The quality of this first connection, the eye contact, physical proximity, and daily mirroring, creates the internal working model we use to perceive trust and safety throughout our lives. This mirroring is shaped by 4 distinct parenting styles. By plotting parental warmth against clear expectations, we can categorize these environments into authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, and uninvolved quadrants. The authoritative style, which balances high warmth with clear structure, serves as the developmental ideal. This stability provides the scaffolding upon which a child's self-esteem and confidence eventually rest. In contrast, the remaining quadrants can lead to lasting challenges. Environments heavy on rules but lacking warmth often produce anxiety, while warmth without boundaries can lead to impulsivity. When both are missing, the resulting emotional neglect can make it difficult for an adult to feel worthy of support. A secure vertical attachment provides the safe base required for exploration. It establishes the permanent baseline for how we perceive intimacy and safety in every relationship that follows. Turning to the horizontal axis, siblings emerge as our very first peers. These are often our longest-lasting relationships, offering a unique space to practice social skills before using them in the wider world. While sibling rivalry is often viewed as a purely negative friction, it serves as a necessary catalyst. It builds emotional resilience by forcing children to navigate needs that aren't always met immediately. In this environment, children practice the delicate art of competition, the necessity of cooperation, and the vital, messy process of conflict resolution. This peer-to-peer interaction teaches children how to advocate for themselves while respecting the boundaries of others. They learn to navigate power dynamics without the total protection of parental intervention. Conversely, chronic antagonistic relationships can hinder development. If conflict at this level is destructive, it can create a legacy of insecurity that makes it harder for individuals to trust others as they mature. Horizontal family friction is the training ground for empathy. It provides the tools of self-advocacy and negotiation that are required to survive in the social landscape outside the home. The interactions occurring on this rug, both vertical and horizontal, are the same ones that will eventually play out in boardrooms and bedrooms. Every gesture and word carries weight in the development of the child's emerging identity. Our adult behavioral patterns are an unbroken continuation of these early experiences. Intimacy and conflict management are not new skills we learn as adults, but the language of relationships we have been speaking since infancy. Mapping these developmental patterns allows us to identify the source of our own behavioral reflexes. By recognizing these cycles, we gain the ability to move from passive observers of our reactions to conscious participants in our own emotional growth. For caregivers, the objective is not a state of perfection. The goal is the intentional creation of a good enough foundation, a stable, loving environment that prioritizes emotional safety and supports eventual independence. Parents serve as the primary architects of a child's early environment. The relational blueprints drawn within the 4 walls of the home today establish the trajectory for how that child will perceive their place in the world for the rest of their lives. The way a child thinks is colored by a slow, silent drip of environmental influence. It is a pervasive process of conditioning that begins to shape their worldview long before they are old enough to recognize it as happening. Every environment a child walks into acts as a classroom. From the layout of their bedroom to the rules of the playground, they are absorbing an invisible set of instructions about how the world works. Sociologists refer to this as the hidden curriculum. These are the implicit lessons, the social norms, power dynamics, and perceptions of self-worth that we learn alongside the official academic subjects. We often view our DMA as a fixed script for our future, but biology is only the starting point. It provides the hardware, while the environment begins the long process of installing the software. If nature provides the raw genetic code, what are the specific environmental curriculums that actually build a child's identity? This process is driven by epigenetics. As this diagram shows, your genes have physical switches attached to them. External factors from the environment can flip these switches on or off, determining which of your inherited traits actually manifest. The most influential switches are often flipped at home. Because a child's house is their first and most consistent environment, its physical and emotional atmosphere serves as a foundational classroom. This curated living room represents a structured physical space, which research shows helps foster focus and cognitive growth. When a home environment is predictable and organized, it allows a developing brain to prioritize learning over managing chaos. The emotional atmosphere is just as critical. Caregivers who offer consistent support and secure attachment teach a child to regulate their emotions. Conversely, an unpredictable emotional climate can program the brain to remain in a baseline state of anxiety. These daily interactions define the home's teaching style. Authoritative parents who combine warmth with clear expectations help children build independence. Authoritarian methods, which focus on rigid obedience without explanation, often lead to long-term struggles with self-esteem. Before a child sits at a school desk, the home curriculum has already established their baseline for safety, social skills, and self-worth. Outside the home, children enter an unregulated digital classroom. Social media platforms operate with a hidden curriculum that is designed to be highly addictive. This dopamine feedback loop triggers users to check their phones. Likes provide a reward, reinforcing the habit. This teaches that self-worth is a product of quantitative metrics. Over time, the constant need for validation leads to a measurable decline in baseline self-esteem. The behavioral fallout is significant. The invisibility of digital interaction often erodes empathy, contributing to cyberbullying and leaving children in a state of social isolation despite their constant connectivity. Without active intervention, the digital classroom begins to overwrite the home curriculum, replacing face-to-face social skills with a dependency on virtual approval. The physical school system is the final arena where these hidden curriculums take hold. Here, a child's future self-image is often shaped by the expectations of the institution itself. Our current testing culture narrows the definition of intelligence. By focusing heavily on these standardized bubble sheets, the system rewards rote memorization while overlooking the development of creativity and critical thinking. However, teachers can counteract this through the Pygmalion effect. This psychological principle suggests that a student's performance will rise or fall based on the level of belief their teacher has in them. When educators believe in a student's potential, they provide more attention and more rigorous challenges. This unconscious support turns their high expectations into a self-fulfilling prophecy of success. Students who are taught that they are capable of greatness consistently outperform those who are merely taught to memorize facts for a test. To navigate these environmental influences, children need specific mental tools. Psychologist Carol Dweck identified the most effective one: the growth mindset. A growth mindset teaches children to see failures as learning moments. Instead of a wall that blocks progress, a setback becomes a staircase that allows them to climb higher. Adding practices like mindfulness and emotional regulation further empowers them. These skills allow children to recognize their own stress signals and choose their responses, rather than simply reacting to their surroundings. When we help children find a clear sense of purpose and teach them to set actionable goals, we give them a reliable internal compass for making their own decisions. We can't rewrite a child's genetic code, but we do have the power to curate the physical and emotional settings that decide which of those genes are activated. Building stable homes, setting digital boundaries, and raising classroom expectations gives children a framework for managing their own lives with confidence. By deliberately shaping these hidden curriculums, we provide the tools for children to grow into capable, self-assured adults.